Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We can now start with our press conference. The first day of our informal environmental ministerial focused on eco-innovation, and therefore we have with us today Mr. Siim Kiisler, Commissioner Vella, and Simon Upton, Director of Environment in the OECD. And Mr. Kiisler, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us here today. I assure you we had very interesting, very inspiring discussion about eco-innovation and which ways we could use to speed up the transition to a more sustainable way of life. It may raise some questions what eco-innovation is really about. There are many definitions, but as it's one of the priorities of our presidency, let me explain in a few words what we mean by it. We all know that traditional production and consumption patterns are not sustainable. Anyone can see the impact on the environment. We use up precious primary resources and leave behind mountains of waste. We need to rethink how we live and what we consume, and then act accordingly. Innovative products, processes, and solutions can help us to do that. Eco-innovation isn't new in Europe. We all have our success stories and great examples. However, it is still an exception instead of being a common way of doing business. So, today we took time to really think about these things, produce new ideas, and offer solutions to make eco-innovation really happen. I would like to outline three important areas: product transparency, smart cities, and financing. First, more and more manufacturers are thinking about how to reduce the environmental impact of goods and services. The most crucial stage is product design, as 80% of a product's overall environmental impact is decided at the design stage. Smart design can make products also more durable, another important aspect when it comes to environmental impact. However, companies cannot do it alone. Consumers can help things along by making informed, sustainable choices. And to do that, they need information about the environmental footprint of products and services. Once people have that information, they can adjust their behavior accordingly, not only in terms of what we buy, but also how we use, reuse, and dispose of things. Second, 3/4 of Europeans live in urban areas, and I am sure that most of us enjoy green spaces rather than a concrete desert. Today, we're focused on blue-green infrastructure projects that can enrich our everyday environment and deliver these future cities as a standard model. By that, I mean green roofs and facades, open green spaces, constructed wetlands, restoring streams and rivers, just to name a few. They improve air quality, reduce urban heat island effect, help manage storm water, and increase biodiversity. Third, we also discussed how to channel finances into sustainable activities rather than business-as-usual modes of operation. It is clear that additional financial resources are needed, whether public, private, or a combination of both. Sustainable financing means valuing environment, economy, and society together. It's important to create a system where all three are taken into account. We can't invest in green solutions just because they are green. They must also be profitable and useful, only then they work. Estonian Presidency will continue to work on these issues. We have put eco-innovation on the table and will not take it off until we make some progress here. And eventually we hope to adopt Council conclusions on eco-innovation at December's Environmental Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I now give the floor to Commissioner Vella.
Thank you very much. And I have to start by first and foremost congratulating the Estonian Presidency, in particular our colleague and friend, if I may call you friend, Siim, for the organization of this Informal Environment Council in a perfect, truly circular setting. What a great value in a great city. We had this morning an excellent discussion on eco-innovation, as Siim already mentioned. We heard many good examples of how eco-innovation provides not just environmental solutions, but also economic benefits such as growth, jobs, and profits. I gave the example of how implementing our waste and circular economy policies requires innovation in a number of areas: technological innovation, systematic innovation, financial innovation, marketing, and regulatory innovation. And circular economy and waste management also show how all three themes in our breakout sessions today are relevant. Product design is crucial, so we must design out waste. Finance is needed and can be generated even from environmental taxes. And cities are managing waste systems. We broke into 3 working groups to discuss 3 crucial issues. The first issue, eco-innovation to facilitate product circularity. The second was on sustainable finance. And the third group discussed how to promote smart, sustainable green cities. On product policy, we agreed on the importance of basing our legislation on solid science, as well as the critical role of eco-design to produce products which are easy to reuse and easy to recycle. Green public procurement is another very important instrument which was discussed extensively. The Commission, in this regard, will propose by the end of the year an ambitious strategy for plastics, and this is part of the action plan within the circular economy package. Finally, the importance of working with business and SMEs to develop the low-carbon circular economy of the future was also highlighted. On sustainable finance, we discussed the scenarios for the future of our EU budget, the importance of public money for public goods, the need for European added value. We discussed that agriculture, cohesion, and research funding will provide real environmental impact. I also announced that the Commission's high-level group on sustainable finance will publish its interim report today, and I also encouraged all those present to contribute to this debate. On sustainable cities, we announced that the Green Week for next year, for 2018, will be on sustainable cities, and this will be an opportunity to share best practices on how cities implement environmental policies such as air quality, waste, wastewater, green infrastructure, and green public procurement. We obviously will listen to cities to help design better policies, and we will launch our benchmarking tools as well. What we have in mind is that we launch a set of criteria where each and every city could self-assess against these criteria. Once again, thank you very much, Presidency, and I feel and I know that we are in very good hands.
Thank you, and Mr. Upton, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm not part of the Presidency, but the Presidency invited me to moderate the discussion, and as you know, the ambition, Estonia's ambition, is to adopt Council conclusions at the December Council meeting in the eco-innovation space, and it was looking to gather ideas and also priorities. And to help with the prioritizing, we had a vote between all of the ministers on what they saw as the most pressing points. Where would they put their priority? Where would they put their emphasis? So on each of those 3 topics, product transparency, smart cities, sustainable financing, there was vote because each of the groups came up with 3, 4, 5 ideas, and we wanted to get an idea of what were the best ones in terms of numbers. So there was a vote, and let me give you the results. For the group that was looking at, the breakout group looking at product transparency, they came up with 3 ideas, and the winning idea, the one which most ministers gave emphasis to, is clear targets on product design and waste prevention. I think there's a feeling that being clear about what you mean by waste prevention, what you mean when you talk about product design, clarity is needed if people are going to respond and do things. Secondly, the breakout group on smart cities produced 5 suggestions, and the one which the group as a whole liked most was increasing the use of green public procurements for cities and regions, and allowing new innovations and small players to compete. Public procurement, I should say, was a significant theme, actually, in all of the conversations. The fact that the public sector spends a lot of money on stuff means that it really can influence what products enter the marketplace. And so what ministers were saying was, don't forget about cities and regions and ensure that not just the big companies, but the small ones and the startups, they can engage. Finally, the third group, sustainable finance for growth, there was a tie. The room, when they heard the 5 suggestions from this breakout group, gave equal weighting to taking into account environmental costs, not just monetary costs. I think that applies to everything in the environment, not just circular economy. And secondly, bringing private and public financing together. So those are they're all priorities, but those were the topics which the full group of ministers gave the greatest emphasis to in our vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we have time for a few questions. Please indicate your name, the media you work for, and to whom this question is addressed for. Well, there seems to be no questions. And then this concludes our press conference. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Upton.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No questions. Everyone. Very good. I have to leave. He's going to get wet. I'm staying dry. I'm going back to Paris. Is it? No, but it's going to rain.